Hi everyone. One of my viewers asked me to do a video dealing with Shohin-sized Shimpaku junipers. And so I went through my garden and I realized that I had several of them. And these are all trees that I had grown from cuttings with the intention of doing some kind of a forest or group planting. And when I got this request, I realized maybe it's time to go forward with that plan and see what comes out. So we have these three trees here, and these were all started from cuttings roughly 10 years ago. We simply took everything that we cut off a larger Shimpaku juniper at the right time of year and then struck the cuttings, and since they were originally struck in smaller pots, and then they were transplanted up into these pots 3 or 4 years later. So what we're going to do, this is the rough arrangement here. This is going to be the center tree, and then this one, which has 3 trunks, is going to sit on the left side of the composition, and then this one here will balance out the right side. And we purchased a large oval pot for our planting. This is a Japanese-made pot that we purchased from a local nursery and prepared. So what we'll do now is we'll wire out these trees and do a little bit of rough pruning, and then after we've got them wired and done some preliminary shaping, then we'll plant them into the pot and work on the finer composition of the actual group. All 3 trees have been wired now. We've got our 3-trunk tree, which is going on the left side of the composition, the main tree, which is the main tree because it's the tallest one, and then the tree that's going to balance out the right side. What we need to do now is extract them from the pots and cut the roots a little bit, get them to fit into the new pot, which we've prepared with soil and wire and is ready to receive the trees. This root ball needs to be about half as thick as it is right now for this tree to fit into the pot. So we'll reduce it accordingly. First we've got to get it untangled a little with the cultivator. And you can use a root hook or a chopstick for this. It's my preference, though, to use a cultivator. Okay, this is starting to get pretty good here. Looks like we're not going to have to cut it very much at all. This tree has a nice compact root ball thanks to being in that pot. This time of year in California, junipers are still growing, but very slowly. So although I wouldn't do a major root reduction, something this size is perfectly safe. Okay, this is close to being where we need it to be. So let's just test fit it where it's going to go in the pot. And this is actually looking quite good. I think I'm going to take a little bit more roots off on this side so that we have a little gap between the main tree. Because it's in a heavy training pot, I'm going to need to lever it out with a garden trowel. And this tree has sent roots throughout the pot, so it's going to need a bit more cutting in order for it to fit in its new position. Okay, we're going to cut off any excessively long roots. Now these white roots are weed roots. These you can just pull off, and then this long root is actually a little bit rotted, so it's not going to miss that. and it means I maybe miscalculated a bit with my soil mixture, but that happens. Now I'm going to take a look around it. The good news is the long roots are on the side where we need them, so we'll just pluck the rest of the weeds out of here, and then we'll go test fit. Okay, this is our main tree, and it's going to go in about like this. And we can already see we've got a little bit of branch conflict between the two trees, but it's not a problem. It's something we can adjust later. The other thing is we are going to have to take some roots off on this side in order to fit the third tree in place. So what we'll do now is take our main tree back out. This is our third tree, and you're looking at it from the back right now. Here it is from the front. Just slide it out of the pot. And the good news is this soil is really in good shape here, so cutting roots on this one shouldn't be too much of a problem. So just go around it, tease them out, try to get an idea where we are in terms of root structure. Okay, and this is cuttable here. We'll just take off all the long ones here. And that leaves us with a nice compact root ball. Now it's time to see how all three trees fit together in the composition, and then start playing with the positioning before we wire them in place. I'm going to turn it around here, and I already know the main tree wants to come up and over a little bit, so we're going to have to do something with that. And then the three trunk tree is going to have to tilt a little bit too. So I'll go retrieve my gardening trowel, and I have a bucket of soil here. And we'll just start working the soil in and play with getting the positioning right on these trees before we wire them into place. So we'll backfill some soil in here, and that'll help us tilt this. Now that branch can come up, and that one. And that one can come down. And that one can go back a little. And this is why I don't like to wire branch to branch, because these two are wired together, and one of them is not really holding the other one all that well. So may have to fix that later. Alright, now our last tree is actually looking pretty good here. It needs to come up just a little bit on this end, and we're going to have some extra roots to deal with for a while here, but these are thick roots and I don't want to take them off just yet, so future repottings will fix the root issues on this tree, but for right now it's going to be like this. And then I'm going to figure out my wiring here. Wire into position the three trunk tree on the left side of the composition. And then our last pair of wires we're going to save for the main tree to hold it in. Now some of you may say, well, these two trees over here have only one pair of wires on them. This one has two. Well, the reason for that is this one is leaning over quite a bit, and we had to lean it quite a bit from the way it was in its previous pot in order to get it in. So we're using the wire basically where it's needed. Now we want to backfill our soil. And we'll just kind of fill in around here. Now this is my standard soil mix. It's got a lot of decomposed granite and some sand and some pumice in it so that it drains pretty well. And that means I can actually pack it in fairly tightly around the tree without worrying about having any problems later. So we're just going to keep going around, filling in here. What will happen eventually is the roots of the three trees are going to grow together. And once that happens, whenever this composition gets repotted, it's going to get repotted as a single unit. We're not there yet, but give it a couple of years and it most assuredly will happen. You may notice we potted the main tree, the big one, out in front of the others. That's to give the composition a sense of perspective. The smaller trees are farther back, and it reinforces the idea that we're viewing something, large trees at a distance, rather than small plants in a pot. Now we're pretty close to being finished here. Just a couple of things I want to look at. And one is we've got these branches kind of fighting with each other here. So we're going to take off some more foliage here and kind of clean this branch up a little bit. And then this one, it maybe doesn't really need. And then we'll have other branches growing in here later that will take over that branch's function. That's kind of a feeling I get, so just going to simply take that off. And that actually does make the composition look a lot better. So let's turn it around a little bit and show what we have now. What you're looking at is the front of the composition, and what we'll do is we'll turn it around just to show you where it is. Here's the back, and then after this we'll maybe do just a little bit more to clean it up and make it look nice. We've put some moss on the surface of the soil and cleaned up the soil surface a little bit with some finer material to give this composition more of an aged and forest-like appearance. In summation, something like this is great if you're a beginner in bonsai and if you don't have access to large material, older material with large trunks, or really top quality material. What you can do is you can create a forest planting using several trees of the same variety and achieve the same effect. And hopefully that's what we've done here. Thank you for watching, folks.